Okay? I'm going to ask you a question. If I would ask you to label what is a dangerous man, or to define to me what a dangerous man, what's like the first thing that comes to your head or comes to your mind, if you have any?
Serial killer.
Serial killer. Well, what do you say?
Someone who is very manipulative.
Manipulative.
Motorcycle.
Motorcycle, I regard, no, that I'm not saying. Motorcycle, no.
No
No.
values.
Huh?
No values.
No values. Very dangerous man. Eitan, any?
I was going to say manipulative also.
What?
I was going to say manipulative as well.
Manipulative as well. Anybody else wants to try? Yeah?
Can make change happen.
Okay.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Liar.
Liars, yes. Liars are very, very dangerous men. However, I don't see it like that. I mean, maybe, when you say dangerous man, you think some kind of a gangster or pirate with a swinging sword or with a gun and like this. That's what we were, we think that it is. But I don't think that that's exactly what society means when society needs to classify people as dangerous people. Not necessarily that's what society has in mind. So when society says a person or labels somebody as dangerous, is, yes, sometimes those people that you say, robbers and killers and gangsters and thugs and so on and so forth, but not always. You'll be surprised, not always. The most dangerous people that society will label are people who are their own men. When you are your own men, you become dangerous. And society does not like that. I mean, I think one of there are many reasons for anti-Semitism, but one of the most, deep reasons for anti-Semitism is because Judaism shares something that regular society does not like. I mean, sometimes, yes, we also as Jews, fall into the trap, but by nature, Judaism has something that is different than everybody else, as we see by the story of Purim, when we have Haman, right? The concept of a person that does, a nation that does whatever they want, and they march to their own drum, and they, don't really, follow everybody's scheme of things. And the Torah commended us also, and that's the testimony that God says, Am levadad yishkon, a nation that would dwell by itself. And we always say, no, we want to be just like everybody else. So, if I would have to define to you what is, to define, what is this to be your own man, you'll be surprised what it is. Now, let me tell you, I looked in the dictionary, whatever, different places. So, what is the definition of your own man? The definition of your own man is to act, to think, or work independently. Not to accept or be swayed by other people or others' influences. And to act independently also and with confidence. Act or think independently. These are different places that I looked at. Not following others or being ordered to do things. Now, you get a certain drift here. To behave or to think independently without worrying about what other people think. Am levadad yishkon, a nation would dwell by itself, u'bagoyim lo yitchashav, and it would not count what the nations want them to do. To act like that, that's a dangerous man. If you look at what is happening around us, and I am going to tell you the following. I am not a conspiracy-driven person. I like to look at things the way they are. I don't listen to this, I don't listen to that. But as years progress, you see it more and more, how we take advantage of situations to create a scenario with people or an atmosphere around us of complete dependency, and we, regardless of what we think, regardless of this all what we call individualism, we don't want individualism. That is also something that is shoved down our throats. You know, for example, if in America, if we could again be a nation of people who are self-sufficient, self-reliant, farmers, craftsmen, hunters, whatever it is. You know, one of the reasons that they did, one of the things that is amazing to me that they did in America was to kill agriculture. The government sometimes pays more money to the farmers so they won't grow in order for them to control the prices. You can't find workers in agriculture. They don't want you. I'm surprised that we don't yet have, and I'm sure somewhere down the road it will come, there will be some regulation of what and how you can grow tomatoes in your backyard. Believe me, if we were self-reliant society that relies on that, you know, we will be much better off. You know, when you have ranchers that could supply the meat and so on and so forth. Or even you know, nation of artists, that where there's more artists in the you know, in our society. There's no art. Art is being forgotten. And I'm really serious. Art is being forgotten in all aspects of art. And we kill even tendencies of poetry and poets and writers. It's all about selling another book and there is something to it. You know, so when you have people that are self-reliant, that they can grow their own stuff. And that was the concept, by the way, in America beforehand. So therefore, what we call the rich people and so on and so forth, the people who have all the power cannot dominate the others. And since they can't dominate the others, they can rule the others. If they can't rule the others, right? All of a sudden you get what is so-called the American dream. The American dream is for people to be free. You know, there was a very famous act in 1862. It's called the Homestead Act. And the Homestead Act was, you know, a government initiative to be able to give citizens or future citizens up to 160 acres of public land, provided they would live on it, improve it, and pay a small registration fee. 160 acres. That would mean that instead of being, and by the way, it was done also in having the slaves, the black slaves, you know, giving them an ability to become self-reliant. To move people out of the city into the country so they won't be dependent on handouts. In other words, ending slavery is not necessarily just putting, you know, it's not putting people in shackles. Today we are all, to a certain extent, experience certain form of slavery, and we like it. And the Torah tells us, don't be a slave. If a person has a chance to break free, the Torah says to his master, after 7 years you have to release your slave. You have to give him a chance to be free, and you have to give him something to start his life. You just don't throw him in the street like that. In a way, what they did in the Homestead Act was that. So people will be self-reliant. So we would not have that you know, social handout that we see today to such an extent that is ridiculous. When people are buying Snickers for $1,000, but they get food stamps from the government. It's ridiculous. So that's the Homestead Act. You know, it was really, you know, amazing. So the best way to avoid and that's done. And how do you do this? I mean, you do so by absolutely constantly brainwashing the people. And brainwashing, you should know, is not something that you are passive about. Brainwashing is when you allow to be brainwashed, then you keep it brainwashed. Because if you will hold on to something, you're not going to be brainwashed. So brainwash is initially your choice to be brainwashed. So one way to become your own man, and in a way become the dangerous man, is to avoid any form of brainwashing. In other words, do not watch TV. Don't watch TV. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to what this one says or what the other one says, because even through advertisements they're brainwashing you. We'll get to it in a little while. You have to learn, right? And you have to form your own opinions. You have to have your own opinion, You have to form them. In other words, you have to think about things, and we don't want to think. We think, and usually how does it happen? They bring you some expert. In Israel you see it a lot. Hamumche, the expert for whatever, I don't know, swatting flies. Everybody is an expert. So you say, oh, if they bring an expert to the news, I'm going to listen to the expert, and then I say the words that the expert says, and I feel an expert myself. But you're an expert in wasting your life, you morons, you buffoons. You don't know anything. There's no substance. You have to form your own opinions. So, and you have to understand that because freedom is not a natural state of society. Freedom is not a natural state of human society. So therefore freedom is something that you should work hard to get, and you should work hard to maintain. And if the people in society are lazy, the freedom will vanish. They would not have freedom. And you need to look at what is happening in our time now, when we're encouraging laziness of people. Nobody wants to work hard. Everybody wants to do so. Yes, and the lottery is an example for that. We are holding on and clinching on to a fact I'm going to have a lot of money, I don't have to do anything. There is a price to pay for everything. There were people like this in America, and at the time there were the mountain men, and the mountain men were in a way driven out of the mountains to become regular people, because they were self-reliant. The mountain men many times worked with the natives, with the Native Americans. They didn't have to fight and put axes to the heads and hatchets and so on and so forth. Sometimes they did, but most of the time they got along. They were trading. Mountain men were free men. That's why when I drove to one time years ago, I went to New Jersey. Not New Jersey. New Jersey, I try not to go, but I went to New Hampshire. I said, "Wow, I really like the license plate. Live free or die. Don't tread on me. The garrison flag. I love it." And that's something that we had in America, and that was because, in a way, when America was established with the mindset. They took a lot from the concept of the Torah and they apply it into that in terms of freedom and so on and so forth. Sometimes when we have power, we tend to abuse the power because we see the opportunity for that, and again we allow that to happen. A man who is his own man thinks for himself. You think for yourself. You think about what are your goals, what are your ambitions, and doing whatever you can in your power all the time to reach those ambitions. You set goals. If there are no goals, there is nowhere for you to go. You're just being pushed down, the aisle. You're just floating down the river like dead fish. You have to set goals to yourself, and the goals could be great goals, and then you're going to set a timeline how to get it step by step, step by step, step by step. Whether you get it or not, it doesn't make a difference. You're always on a constant move. I had one time an interview with B.B. King. He was 83 years old, and he was playing his guitar. So somebody asked him, said, "What would be the thing that you regret the most?" He said that I'm not a better singer or a better guitar player. 83 years old, the guy was still playing. Great people, regardless of what people think of them, regardless of what they know that they are, always want to get better. So that constant pursuing of perfection. And today we tell you it's okay. We'll cut you some slack. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay. And one of the things is the increasing all of a sudden phenomena of having disabilities and syndromes and all those things. So when I'm telling you that you have a certain disability, say, oh, it's okay, I don't have to put any effort, I have a disability. Hey, guess what? I don't have to try. I have a syndrome. I have a syndrome but I could summarize all the syndromes and disabilities that we all have to an extent as a certain form of laziness. We don't want to do it. I mean, before we had disabilities, people tried, and they tried their best to do whatever they can. But it's okay. Today, everybody has a disability. Everybody has this syndrome or that syndrome. Because we're looking for ways not to do it. So I'll tell you, for example, if I see parking, I try not to park exactly where I need to go. I want to park further so I can walk into it. I'm not going to look for this extra spot that, I see a spot, I put my car, and then I go. Even if it's at the end of the parking lot, and the store is there, I'm going to go. Well, I'm going to walk a little bit, I'm free. I'm going to park here. I'm not going to fight all the way up to the end of the parking lot looking for a place to put my car so I can just walk less. I want to walk more. It's the choices that I make. I try to make choices on every step of the way. Almost everything that I do in the day, I try to make a decision. And we don't want to make decisions. We want other people. And you see it in what the Torah says. If you want to when you're going to come to the land, and you're going to say, I want to be like the rest of the people, the rest of the nations. I want to have a king. So, okay, you're going to put a king in which God would approve of. But the question is, why do I need a king? Don't you have the king of all kings? Don't you have God? What do you need to have a king for? The only reason, based on the Torah, to have a king is if you want to be like everybody else. You feel that you're missing something by not having a king. But in a way, I'm going to tell you, I have a problem with that, because saying that means I don't fully accept the kingship of God over me and over the world. I want a king like everybody else. So, a man a man like that understands that whatever it is that you do, it's your choices, it's your life. A person who understands that his happiness is not dependent on anyone or any possession that he has. Okay, I'm going to get my car, this car, then I'm going to be a happy man. Or if I'm going to marry this woman, I'm going to be a happy man. A person like this is a fool. When you understand that your happiness is dependent on you and what you're going to want out of your life and how you're actually going to pursue that, then you're going to be real happy. And I'll tell you something. That is a dangerous man. Society does not want people like that. Society doesn't want people like this at all. We are seeing a tremendous, by the way, a pushback against the concept of being your own man. They don't want you to be your own man. And we're seeing the pushback that comes mainly from governments. It comes from large corporations. It comes from what we call the globalist motion, a movement, in other words, to have a globalization of the world. Why everybody has to be an American? I mean, people want to be Japanese, terrific, be Japanese. You want to be French, be French. I don't know why, but be French, and it's fine. Why we have to have everybody the same? You know why? It's easier to control the people if you have everybody the same. To have a variety is not good in this world. What communism tried to do in terms of like uniform, everybody wears the same suit, everybody wears the same car, didn't really work because it was too out in the open. But what we are doing to our society right now is in a way what we're trying to put things to the back door, what communism put to the front door. And it didn't work. And that's the step in which we are going through. And that scares me. The fact that we try to create a society of what is like a sexless society. In other words, there's no definition between the sexes. Well, what's wrong with being a man? What's wrong with being a woman? There's nothing wrong with that. Why do we have to have sometimes you look at ads on the billboards. You can't tell for crying out loud that's a man or a woman. Why there's such a big push for transgenders and transvestite and Transylvanians, I don't know, whatever it is. Why is that? To erase the borders, because we don't even want that that division between the sexes. We want everybody to be the same. It's easier to control the people like that. And that's exactly what in terms of Judaism, what creation was. Creation was a celebration of differences. How all the differences come to harmony together, not the erase of any differences. God created many trees and imagine you have trees that they're all the same trees, only pines. There's no hemlocks and there's no oaks and there's no elms and there's no, maples, whatever it is, no apple trees. I mean, it's a horrible world. And the way they do it like this, especially now with COVID. I'm not saying COVID is nothing. People die from it. It's a pandemic, just like any other pandemic that we had beforehand, and we came out of it, and goodbye, good luck. But it's become the problem that I have with the way anyone is taking care of the pandemic into the COVID is very simple. They're turning it into political agenda as a leverage to get their agenda through to make us more enslaved by corporations, and we're creating pressure on the people. Put your mask on. If I want to die, I want to die. It's not your business. If I want to smoke myself to death, it's my choice. If I have a healthcare plan, I pay the premium. I pay $20,000 a year for that. I'll smoke as much as I want. So why are you penalizing it? I mean, now how are you going to do so? And how does the government does it? By forming tax. There's more tax, and they're getting richer, and we're getting poorer. So, and I'm going to tell you something. The sick part about it, as far as I'm sick, is they usually use terms that are absolutely against it. They said, we're going to use terms of freedom, of justice, and so on and so forth. And that could not be so further to the truth than that. And everything that is done today is not about freedom. It's not about justice. It's not because anybody's lives matter. No man's lives matter today. You all there to serve a system. It doesn't make a difference if you're black or you're green or you're white or you're purple. Your life, it does not matter as an individual. You're here to serve a system, right? and which is a huge problem in terms of what is happening to us. Now, if the whole entire population consists of people who think for their own, who do their own thing, who understand what it is, all of a sudden, guess what? Government cannot come and do something. It's very hard to rule people like that. Very hard to do. Look at what society it became. I mean, in our society, right, became a depressed society, a drug society, obsessed with immediate pleasures, and it's a visionless kind of a society. We don't have vision in our lives. If you ask the average Joe, what's the goal of your life, is to get to pension and to be able to get paid for free. That's what you're striving for. I'll tell you the following. It is better to be a pirate of the Caribbean than to do that. That attitude of freedom, of going out. And by the way, you should know that in the Caribbean, there were many pirates who were Jews, who were fighting against Spain. They were targeting the Spanish armadas against Spain because it was about freedom. This is not something that just happens in the last 20 years and so on. That's something that's been going on for years. One way they did it during the feudal system. You were a vehicle to support the rich man. He gave you land and you're going to give him food. You're going to do the work for him. Today we came back to the same thing. We made a circle back again to the feudal system. Today, instead of having a king, we have a government. So at the time there was a coup, there was a different king or a different law. Today it's a different party, a different king, a different role, and so on and so forth. It's all the same thing. They give us drugs to drug us, not to think. They make all the things that, they're destroying every single value that we had in our lives beforehand. I mean, we always laugh at Korea, North Korea, being like brainwashed and so on and so forth. Are we any different than them? Are we any different than North Korea being a brainwashed society that admires figures, a figurehead, the cult of personality all over again? You don't want people to be their own masters. You take your own responsibility for your life. You are responsible. You're going to do whatever needs to be done. They don't want you to do that, you know. And if you want to be a little blunt about it, they simply going to do whatever they can in their power to not make you free, not to make you the master of your own life. And they will call you names. They would use names that would tell you that you cannot use, but they will call you names, and they will call you, immature. They're going to call you irresponsible. They're going to call you phobic this and phobic that and this and that. They can use those terms, but if you would call it, that's bad. But they will call you names, and you say, I don't want to be called names, right? My name is not names. But that's what the labels that we put on, and then it's the same thing. If you know anything about communism, the way it was in China, or the way it was in Russia and places like that, where they created a perfect system. Everybody was afraid to do anything because their own families will turn against one another. This whole system of snitches was, and that's what we're doing today. We're creating an anonymous line. You know? That's terrible. That's a very, very bad thing. We are constantly brainwashing. Let me tell you, for example, the advertisements industry. If I'm going to ask you a question, what's a car of a person that is concerned about the environment? What kind of car is it going to drive?
Tesla.
Prius, Tesla, and a redneck would drive a pickup truck, right? Right, so I want to see one time a commercial for a Tesla or for a Prius going into rock climbing and mud and so they create an image, and then you associate yourself with the image. By you associating yourself with the image, eventually you forget who you are. So if I want to feel like I'm a redneck, or there's nothing wrong with rednecks, right? So I want to feel like this, so I'm going to drive myself a nice red pickup truck with big rock climber tires, even though I'm just going from one mall to another. Occasionally I'm going to throw some mud on my car to look good, because that's the image that I'm portraying. Which society says rednecks drive pickup trucks, responsible people drive Prius. I mean, needless to say, that if you know anything about what it takes to make a battery for the car, I think it will be more responsible to the environment to drive a F-150 than to drive a Prius, if you're asking me. And what do you do with the batteries after you get rid of it? That's okay, we'll ship them out to space, we don't really care. In a way, there's no difference from the people who used to dump everything into the ocean. But it's what society created. Those regulations that they have, the ongoing regulation about every aspect of your life. How much should you spend? Listen, if I have money, if I want to buy a car that guzzles 5 gallons, 5 gallons a mile, not 5 miles a year, 5 gallons a mile, and I have the money to pay, what is that your business? Why are you telling me that I can't? Why? I have the money to buy. If you don't have money, terrific. Go ride a bus. Take public transportation. Why are you making it so difficult for me to express my freedom by creating bicycle lanes? For crying out loud, the idiot who thought of creating bicycle lanes in Queens, there's not a person who drives those bicycle lanes. But when you created, you killed businesses all along, because nobody can come in, nobody can park. Businesses that people worked and they gave the guts for 40 years closed shop because you had to make a darn bicycle lane. That's wrong. That's very, very wrong. And we need to resist this. We need to, in a way, fight back in terms of. I'm not saying we should take guns to the street and take a revolution, but your way is you have control. Yes, even if the only control that you have is that remote control, you have control. Just turn the darn thing off and just take your TV or cable and throw it out. And of course we're going to give you 5 channels for free. We're going to give you CNN, Fox, and all for free. You don't have to pay for it. So you can continue this ongoing brainwashing over and over. And then of course we're going to give you fair news. We're going to tell you what you should be interested in. and then going to brainwash you to no end, because they decided at that moment that you pressed the button, you decided to hand over your future, you hand over your free thinking to somebody else. At that point, you were done. So be a man, turn it off. Be a man. It says no cable in my house. I remember when I needed to get internet for the house and the telephone, they want to throw in free cable. It says there's no need. It said give me a discount. I'm not having cable. What do you mean you don't have cable? I don't have cable. You don't have a TV. No, I don't have a TV. Why? Why should I? You know how many times they call me for surveys? You'd have to do a survey on a thing. Oh, which TV are you watching? Which channel? I don't. New newspaper. I don't read. Bang, they hang up. It's unbelievable. And the fact that you have to be completely traced on everything. There's no such thing. You used to make money. You used to say cash is king. I went to a place, like 2 weeks ago, I went to a place in Jersey, some very nice place, and I wanted to buy bread. They make terrific bread there. So we went over to my son, and I said, okay, let me stop by. So I bought a nice blueberry pie, really beautiful. I bought some sourdough bread, some baguettes, and so on and so forth. And they asked me, I said to them, okay, how much was the total? I don't know, $56, I don't know, 20-something cents. I said, okay, not a problem. I went to my wallet, I took $100, I gave it to her. She said, I'm sorry, we don't take cash. I said, excuse me? He says, no, unless it's the exact amount, we don't take cash. It's only credit card. I never heard such a stupid thing in my life. I was about to walk out of the street, out of the store. My wife went on holiday. Said, listen, stop behaving, you know. What do you mean you don't take cash? So what now? Because now I bought so much bread, and look at this. They're going to say, we get a report from the government, you know, from the doctors, because everything is like this. Your BMI is a little bit on the chunky side. So guess what? You're eating too much things. So now I'm going to tax you more because you're a little fat because you eat too much carbs. Why do you care? It's my business. And if I want to, I mean, I don't eat meat, but if I want to eat beef until it comes out of my ears, my business, not your business, not you to tell me what to do and what to eat. I love it when you go to the doctor, tells you, listen, you got to lose weight. It's the doctor, you tell me when it's your birthday. I ask you why. I said, I'll tell you a mirror. I ask you, your mirror is not working. Look at your belly, you're a little fat. It's crazy. But we allow this to happen. So what, for example, needs to be done, right? And you need to be able to stick to your own beliefs, no matter what. Whatever you know is the right thing to do, what you believe in. You need to stop seeking approval from everyone. You're not going to be able to make everybody happy, and the truth of the matter is most people don't really care about you, so stop looking for approval from people. The moment you allow someone to tell you what is right and what is wrong, it's game over. In other words, you stop thinking, in that point you became a pawn. Anybody seen the last, what's his name movie, Crazy Max, Mad Max, whatever it is, where there were, the guy had this guy, he takes his veins, he walks in, he has a constant blood transfusion. Well, that's what it is. Those people who tell you what to do, they kind of leech into you. They take all the life, and you became a platform for their existence. You have no mind of your own. You're just a platform that gives them what they need, which is power, money, and so on and so forth. Why do you think government is getting so big and powerful? Because they keep on increasing taxes. I mean, I leave 1 second Trump, Biden, Harris, whatever, all these things, right? Leave it to the side. But look what happens to outsiders in Washington when they come in. Like, for example, like Richard Nixon was an outsider. Richard Nixon was not a part of the goody-goody kids. Look at what happened to other people who actually rape and murder people. Man, that's okay, they're still celebrities. Look at what happened to Trump. They want to make small government, reduce taxes. They get kicked out. One way or another, they get kicked out in a very, very well-oiled machine. Whether he wanted to build a wall, he built a wall, didn't build a wall, but from day one, even from day zero, before Trump became president, they already made up their mind that he's not going to stay. They did whatever they can for 4 years. to get him out of power. Whether he was a good president, not a good president, I'm talking about a phenomenon, not about individuals. Any outsider does not make it in Wall Street. I'm sorry, in the White House, in Washington. Let me ask you this. If you want to run to office, can you, all of you who were born in America, can you run and technically become a president of the United States? Can you become governors? Can you become mayors, right? You could, right? You could. You can't. Because in order today to become even to run for Senate, look at how crazy, some lunatic in Arizona spent $100 million and lost. If you don't have this money, you can't be in office. So we're creating a ruling caste. That technically we are all equal, but practically we're not. You cannot run to office unless you belong to this cabal, to this group of super millionaires who are power hungry, that feed on your back. And they will make sure that you would not be your own man. They're going to make sure that you don't think for yourself. They're going to define for you what is right and what is wrong. And if I have a certain belief, they're going to tell you that is wrong. And who are you to tell me that is wrong? That's what I believe in. And I'm not here saying it's a belief to eradicate this kind of people or this race of people. That's wrong. Talking about beliefs in terms of what I think is right or wrong, in terms of conducting myself, in terms of, and what happens is, supposedly we're supposed to get, sit around the fire, hold hands and sing Kumbaya and sing John Baez's songs, right? But that's not the case, because all it is they're creating more and more unrest. So they turn around, white men against black men against white men, both of them against Chinese, and then soon the Indians will come and they're going to start around, attacking a caravan because it serves somebody's point. You think I'm crazy? I think you are crazy if you don't believe what I'm saying. You have to understand that life is your reality. It's not the reality of your mom. It's not the reality of the way your dad sees it, your brother sees it, your cousin sees it, your friend sees it, CNN sees it, or your adopted grand-auntie from your uncle's neighbor's side. 3 times removed. It's nobody's reality. It is your reality, your world. So figure out what your values are. You need to sit down and figure out what your values are. And if you don't know what, if you don't know who you are, right? Or what is your value and what are your goals, so then you will find yourself easily blown away about every 2 minutes, but any gust of wind that will come from any direction. Your values, your virtues are essential for your existence. If you don't have any of them, you're going to be swayed away. You need to make the rules. You need to make the rules. You like things a certain way? Well, keep it that way. And I'm going to tell you the following. Sometimes we see those things even being abused by religious entities, because even religion, which should be pure, is being hoisted on that big carriage of power and power-driven people. So even resist that within your religious world as well. Don't allow those things to happen. You need to sit down, and for that you need to be intelligent. So today, Rabotai, let me tell you something, my dear friends. Today is not to make you intelligent, it's to make you more obedient. How many people read books nowadays? Well, you read books. How many people are here? How many people out there read books? So why should I read a book? I want to put on, Netflix. People don't read books anymore. When I was a kid, I loved to read books because I fell in love with the West. Why did I fall in love with the West? Because for me, the American West was the ultimate idea of freedom, to be able to go on your horse and to go anywhere you want. Today you can't. They have restrictions in New York where you come in. You have to test beforehand, you have to test afterwards, you have to have this. And how are you going to trace me? Because I have a telephone and that's my electronic handcuffs. Guess what? Maybe you should not have a smartphone, because if you have a smartphone, it means you are the moron who has a smartphone. Then you shouldn't have a phone at all. What did people do beforehand? Why do you feel that you need to get me immediately and I need to answer you immediately? Why? I'm not allowed to have my own free time? And I see the people are waking up, and that's, for example, people who like to go outdoors, or people who develop that sense of, You know, I'm going to get myself a big rig, a big car, and I'm going to go overlanding, and I'm going to be my own free man. I'm going to wake up and do whatever it is. I see that as a grassroots movement towards that freedom. I'm sure that they're going to make restrictions on that as well soon. But that's what it is. They don't want you to go out. They want you to be on all the time. So guess what? Maybe you should turn off the phone. They can't find you. They can't trace you. They can't triangulate you. You have a credit card. They know what you buy. They're going to tell you what you buy. They hear you on the telephone. We talked about something 2 days later. I mean, what 2 days? The next day, we had it on the phone. Instead of a crazy thing like that. It's ridiculous. How many times has that happened? They have those devices that listen to you all the time, whether it's Siri or Alexa or whatever it is, or, you know, and all of a sudden I won't be surprised if I'm going to get home and all of a sudden I'm going to open my, I don't know, I'll open YouTube. We're going to have like whole conspiracy, you know, like videos of a conspiracy and all that crazy stuff like that. You know, suggested to you. Who the heck are you to suggest it to me? I don't want to watch this. I want to watch Jennifer Lopez singing. I don't want to have conspiracy. What do you care for me, you know? They're going to tell me what I like. Who are you to tell me what I like? Who are you to judge me based on what I dress? Who are you? Are you interested in my externalism or my internalism? Of course, we're going to erase your it's almost like cloning. Now that's what it is. When you take a fertile egg and you erase all its DNA content, you know, from in it, and then you implant something in it, and then you get a clone. That's what we're all trying to be. They're trying to erase our spirituality, our internal processes, our internal environment, and to implant it in something foreign that is all the same. We are clones of the same thing. Maybe externally we all look different, but internally we're all turning the same. And that is wrong. You know, being your own man is all about power. It means that not following the masses. Not following the masses. Power is about also having responsibility. Those people are just power hungry. They don't want responsibility. They don't. That's why we have bad leaders. A leader needs to understand that his power is there to serve the people, not the people to serve him. Having your own power is responsibility. See, if you have this, you have to take about responsibility. You have to do the right thing. And it starts with you. If you could not be responsible for yourself, how are you going to be responsible for everybody else? Why do you think society has such a high rate of divorce of kids that don't fit? Because we are extremely shallow. We don't encourage people to be responsible. How do we do that? Live your life on a credit card. Don't worry about it. Buy today and pay next month. 0% finance for 50 years. Just buy it. Live without a budget. They don't want you to have a budget. They want you to have loans. They want you to settle down. Who said that you have to own a house? Where does it say in the Constitution that you have to have a house? You have to have a mortgage. You know why you have to have a mortgage? Because then you're going to stuck here, and if you're stuck here, then I can do whatever I want. No, I want to be a nomad. You have to have an address. I'm going to take a P.O. box in Idaho. How about that? I want to have a car, and I want to drive around the country. Why do you care? Why do I need to have an address? Oh, for your income. I don't have an income. I barter. They don't want you to barter. Sorry, we don't take cash. Do you understand what is happening to you when you're falling asleep? And having a power is about, like I said to you, about leadership. And leadership starts with yourself. Right? You can take, for example, if you decide to take road B when everybody takes road A, that's your choice. If everybody wants to drive a highway, you want to take the byway, so just do it. Years ago, I went upstate New York, and I told my wife, let's take, on the way back, let's take every side road we can. We cannot take the highway unless we need to cross the bridge. So it took me to go from Lake George back to New York, back to Queens. It took me 14 hours. And I told to my friends, what do you mean 14 hours? I said, it took me 14 hours. I said, what happened here? I said, no, I saw a nice spot and decided to stop. I had a map, I didn't have a GPS, I had a map, and guess what? Highway, I'm staying out of it. So it took me 14 hours. It was a great experience. It was a terrific experience. My kids still remember that. But they don't want it. That cannot be done. Your Easy Pass, bang, tells you where you are. You buy something, tells you where you are. I want to see you going buy gasoline in a place. They make it that it's not going to be possible. You have to pay a credit card. They can tell you exactly where you've been, where you go. It says, it wasn't me. So yes, it was. If I want to live in, I don't know what. Let's say I want to live in Florida. Let's say, for example, I bought a house in Florida, and I'm in New York. I don't want to pay the taxes of New York. Why there? It's like Robin Hood. I don't want to pay taxes of New York. So they're going to tell me, you were in New York. How do we know it? By your phone? We're going to trace you. We're going to track you. We're going to tell you what you think. And then you become too dangerous for them, and they're going to spot you. To be a person that lives off the grid is a dangerous man for society. They don't want you to be off the grid. They want you to be on the grid. They want to know exactly what you like and what you don't like, where you travel, what you speak, what you think, everything. And you allow this to happen. You have to have the strength. And being your own man, it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of independence. It's a sign of freedom. It's a sign of being fearless. I'm not afraid of what you're going to tell me that I am. And you should know that there isn't a man alive who's going to convince you to do the opposite of what you know is the right thing to do. What is the right thing to do? You know it's the right thing to do. Whether anybody agrees with your beliefs or nobody agrees with your beliefs, that doesn't matter. What you're feeling about me does not matter. You don't have to like me. And that's your opinion. And I respect your opinion. But I don't have a need for you to like me. When I develop needs, I'm going to start swaying from what I am or who I am. And then it's all downhill from that point. It cannot happen, those things. And I'll tell you this, don't hide behind your mother's apron. Don't hide behind your fears. Don't hide behind your phobias. Don't hide behind anything. Just look at life in the eyes and give it the best chance you have to experience life in its whole capacity as it is. We're hiding behind all these things because we're afraid to do so. When someone has promised you, for example, heaven and earth tomorrow, if you do this to me, I'll give you, and I'll do for you, and I'll this for you. And of course, everything is mañana, everything is tomorrow. You need to, for example, ask yourself the question, what is it trying to hide from me today by promising me something tomorrow? Why tomorrow? Tell me today. You're trying to hide something from me, trying to blindfold me. And that's exactly what happens anywhere in the world, for example, in any election. And also between interactions. And that's why I like the songs, I never promise you a rose garden. Never promise you a rose garden. You come to me because you want to be with me, not because of what I promised you. And one way to become your own man is to be able to, and I'll tell you this, read biographies of great men. Reading biographies of men, you come to realize that there is a common thread that goes all the time about the stories of those people's life. And it is whatever they were popular or not popular, they did whatever they thought it needs to be done. They weren't concerned about being and you saw to be the queen of the class, to be to be the most liked kids, and how often we get crazy when we have likes. How much anticipation we build when we have 50 likes on Facebook or 50 likes on whatever you call this, you call the other, Twitter and Instagram. We live for those likes. It's an ingenious idea based on the weakness of people. If I have 500 likes to a painting that I made by 500 strangers, does it make me a good painter or a bad painter? Well, it's meaningless. I just painted. Instead of approval gain, and look for respect. Gain the respect of the people, and gain the respect of the people is a topic in which you need to learn how alone. Not to have honor, to have respect. People will respect you, for example, by having a word and sticking to your word. A word of a man means something. Having a vision, Even if it's a big vision, able to carry people, to share that vision with them. Not as their vehicle for your vision, as sharing the vision. Instead of turning the me, is turning into the you, into the us. And that's how you get your family on board. So that's something that we need to understand, to have ambitions, to set goals, and those goals sometimes need to be very brave goals to get you out of the box, or whatever you want to call this, of the comfort zone. Just, I want to have a farm in I don't know where, in Vermont to grow goat and to make goat cheese, but I can't because I would rather be a doctor because it's more secure, because it pays my bills. But how do you sleep with yourself at night? How do you sleep with a person that you became? Has no goals, no ambitions, no dreams. All about is more money, more money, more money, more power. What are you going to do with this power? What have you done? Is that worth it to be called life? Did you earn the chip that allows you to call your life life? It was a gift. Life is a gift for you. Did you do that? It's just amazing. We're afraid of being criticized. So fine. So if somebody, it's interesting. Anybody knows about, there's many people that are, even in kids' books, there's some fantastic ideas. And I want to give you, I can go on talking like this, but I want to give you a few quotes of something that were quite inspirational for me. So one of them is it's like this: if nobody is criticizing you, it is because you're not doing anything important. I think Dr. Seuss said that, or something of that sort. So that's why I said to you, it all stems into laziness. You're going to do something, some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it, some people are criticizing you. But you're afraid of criticizing, that you're not rubbing anybody, you're an appeaser, and appeaser is a horrible thing. Usually people who are appeasers would lie also. They have no backbone, they have no spine. I'm sure you all have your own share of examples you can do so. It is very, people try this all the time. It's very easy to avoid criticism, in life. It's very easy to do so. Why? Because it's simply, as Albert Hubert says, you want to avoid criticism? Very easy. Do nothing. Do nothing. And you see, the more some of our politicians and our leaders, the more they're being praised is basically, if you're going to look at it, so okay, what they have done? Nothing. And we praise them. Those who did less, we praise more, because nobody has to criticize. Oscar Wilde said something fantastic. He says, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. And who are you? Do you know who you are? Or you are a product of some imaginary thing? Remember I told you about being a redneck and being a hipster or whatever it is? It's an image that you chose to adapt into yourself, but you never got to the point of really who you are. And you're only going to know it when you're going to challenge yourself, when you're not going to play it safe. Playing it safe is playing it dumb. Say, you know what? I'm doing internship for the next year and so on and so forth. So I'm going to take a break for half a year. I'm going to do what I need to do responsible for me. I would like to be a nomad in a pickup truck, and I would like to go to Bath Valley and go to I want to see who I am. My biggest concern becoming of age when I was, I guess like 21, 22, is to really figure out if I'm worth anything. What's my worth? Now, I'm not talking about money in the bank. I chose deliberately not to take the path that people hated me. Some of my family members hated me for not picking up a very secure military career with good pension and good this and good that. I just want to know who I am. I was okay with finding out that I'm a nothing, because at that point I can do something about it if I choose to. But I don't want society to tell me how great I am and really inside to be a nothing. That's a terrible thing. So be yourself and start discovering who you are. Forget about what society tells you, they're responsible. And the most stupid thing to say is, well, everybody else does it. So what? If you decide decide to get married at 28, well, good for you. If you decide to marry at 32, it's good for you. Whatever you decided. That was what decided to you. Mommy decided you should get married at 22 in 2 days so she could continue changing your diapers until you're 40. Zorba the Greek says the following: a man needs a little bit of madness to cut the rope and be free. You keep on anchoring yourself. Ralph Waldo said the following. He said, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. What are you? Are you just like anybody else? Are you how should I say it? Clear, seen through? Are you so obvious? Everybody knows what you're going to do, what you're going to say. Go explore yourself. Be a man be a pirate. Be an explorer. Something. But then the last one, which I'm going to finish, and I just love it because you can really learn a lot everywhere if you chose to. One of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, whether he's recognized or not, I don't really care because I define him as such, so for me he is. One maybe of the greatest guitar players of the 20th century is Frank Zappa. And Frank Zappa was a person who did whatever he wanted. And he said the following, and I just simply love it to listen, and with this I'll finish. And then you can all have a sign of relief. Frank Zappa said the following: if you end up with a boring, miserable life because you listen to your mom, your dad, your teacher, your priest, or some guy on television telling you to do your beep, and how to do your life and how to live your life, and you end up with a miserable life, well, you deserve it. You deserve it. So if you don't want to have a miserable life, start being your own man. At all costs. And until then, boys and girls, have a happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful, wonderful day.